Aloha and welcome to Goddess Unleashed. This is Diane Vick, and on today's episode, I'm interviewing another author from the Crappy to Happy series, Frank Zaccari. And he's published 5 books, but has another one in the works, which is pretty exciting. I want Frank to introduce himself and let you know a little bit about himself and where he started. Frank, let us know.
Sure. Thank you. First, Diane, thank you very much for having me on your show. I'm a big fan. My story, the thumbnail is I grew up in Western New York outside of Buffalo, very large Italian family. I mean, really large Italian family, 400 plus cousins. And at age 17, I realized I wasn't going to play shortstop for the New York Yankees. And so that dream was shattered. And it was, okay, now what do I do? So I did 2 years of school in Hudson Valley in Troy, New York. And then the military lottery was going on at the time, and my lottery number was 10. That's the only lottery I've ever won in my life, was that military lottery. I enlisted in the Air Force as a medic. I was sent to California, and I pretty much stayed out west since then. I left Buffalo 2 days before Thanksgiving in a driving snowstorm, landed in Sacramento, California on a beautiful sunny day, walked down the steps, called home and said, I made it. I'm never coming home. So I stayed out in the West. After the military, I finished school, got into the high-tech sector, and did very well. Right place, right time, moved up very quickly, worked for 2 major corporations, Fortune 50 companies, and then I did turnarounds of failing high-tech companies for 20 plus years. Had a life-altering event. My wife left the family. I had custody of my young daughters, and that pretty much ended the high-tech world because I couldn't travel, because I used to be gone about 2 weeks out of every month. So we left Seattle, where we were living at the time, moved back to Sacramento when my daughters were born, and I took over an insurance agency. Now, if you go from high-tech, proactive, being a type A person, to insurance, reactive, it's like dying and going to hell. But it was to serve a purpose. I had 2 daughters to raise. I had to be there for them, and it gave me the flexibility to be a full-time dad. When my youngest daughter graduated from Arizona State and got a job, I sold that business, and then it was, okay, what am I going to be now when I grow up? And so we said, it's time to give back. It's time to try and bring value to people, to help people avoid some of the landmines that I stepped on in my path, and have them live an inspired life, something that makes them happy, something that's authentic, instead of just being on a treadmill every day. So that's my story in the thumbnail.
Well, I understand your passion for helping people. I think that is an amazing drive to inspire people and to help them transform their dreams. And I think nothing is by chance. So we're actually recording this on September 11th, which is the anniversary of a great tragedy here in the United States. And thank you for your service. And I think today I want to thank everyone that has served, not only in our military, but that serves in the front line, helping people with COVID-19, and those firefighters that were lost on 9/11. And thank you for being here today and joining me on this special day. I know that we've all experienced obstacles and challenges, and you've written many books about obstacles and challenges, and how these life-changing events can either make you give up, right? Or they can make you make a decision to transform. And you've obviously made this decision to transform. And I know it began with a story, which is a hard story for you to tell, about your brother and something that happened to him. And you speak about it in your book, 5 Years to Live. So let us know a little bit about that inspirational story.
Sure. That story is in the book, Crappy to Happy. When Ariel and Kat contacted me, I said, well, I've got a few stories, pick the one you like the best. So I sent them a few. 5 Years to Live was a devastating impact on my family. My youngest brother, who was 23 or 24 at the time, worked for a department store. He was a troubleshooter. He would go to different stores and fix whatever needed to be fixed. He got engaged on a Friday. He's in his car driving to his last assignment on Sunday, and he has this horrible accident. The car flips over multiple times, and according to the paramedics on the scene, they figured he was dead when they got there. Obviously, he didn't die. They got him out, transported him. They got him to Thomas Jefferson Hospital in Philadelphia, one of the big research spinal cord hospitals in the world. So he was there, he had the surgery there, and then he went to McGee Rehabilitation Hospital, also in Philadelphia. So he was in the hospital for approximately 10, almost 12 months, almost 12 months. He had to learn how to do everything all over again. After the surgery, the doctors came out to talk to the family. As I said, we have a very large family. So as my mother and father, brothers and sisters, and about 20 cousins were all there when the doctor came out to talk. And she said the surgery went as well as could be expected. He is fractured cervical vertebrae 6 and 7. He is going to be in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. He will be considered a quadriplegic. He can move his arms, but he can't do the fingers. So he's considered a quadriplegic. And you may want to consider putting him in some kind of a home. I, being the blunt one in the family, said to the doctor, I understand people with this injury die within 5 years. And she gave the doctor speak. And well, to everybody, I said, stop. Yes or no? Is that the life expectancy? And she said, yes, that is. My mother, when she heard the put him in a home, went from sobbing hysterically when she heard this news about her youngest child to total rage. And she looked at the doctor and said, he will never, ever see the inside of a home. We will learn whatever it takes, and we will take care of him. And with that mandate from my mother, we all found out how you deal with a quadriplegic, how do you get them up, how do you teach them and help them with everyday things that you would never even consider and think about, even getting dressed. But he now celebrated his 35th year post-accident. And at the time of the accident, the insurance companies always, insurance companies are always fighting you over everything. And they have to allot money for how long they expect him to live. So they're allotting money for him, expecting him to live 5 years. And I remember the insurance people were there, and I happened to be with him, and he said, I'm going to live for 50 years. So you better put away a lot of money, because it's going to cost you a fortune. Now, August 11th was 35 years. He was, it's something where I don't know if I could have done what he did, with that Herculean strength to deal with everything. And we had an episode where he moved to Phoenix. He left Buffalo, moved to Phoenix, next door to my sister, who runs rehabilitation hospitals. And we were at his house, and we had a number of friends over. And someone asked him a question. They said, Steve, if you could go back pre-accident and pick up your life from there, or continue this life as you have it now, what would you do? And I was expecting him to say, well, I'd go back and live the healthy life. But he didn't. He didn't even hesitate. He immediately said, I will take the wheelchair, because it made me a better person. It made me more compassionate. It made me more understanding. It made me realize how precious time in life is. He got involved in teaching high school students life values, and the importance of being authentic, and the importance of living the life that you want to live the way you want to live it, as opposed to living the life that you're told you're supposed to live. He also works with Arizona State Medical School, dealing with doctors and giving them, he has a seminar that he does with them on treating spinal cord injury, because doctors don't get a lot of that. And when you have 35 years, very few people live 35 years post-accident like that. So a lot of the doctors in the area go to him to say, Steve, what should we do here? You know it better than we do. He went through so many different kind of medications, Diane, where you take this set of medications, it affects your kidneys, then this set of medications affects your liver, and this set. Finally, the doctor said, I'm gonna make sure the insurance pays, but I'm gonna get you to a holistic doctor. A lot of people we know. And they said, you're gonna have to change your life again. This is what your diet's gonna have to be. This is how the exercise you're gonna have to do. These are the changes that you're gonna have to put into your routine. And he did it. He did it religiously. I mean, the self-discipline that he has. And when he's talking to people and they look at him and they see the changes that he's been through, they say, wow, if he can do this, the little trivial nonsense that I go through and have to put up with, including getting a divorce, isn't going to be that traumatic. You're going to survive. He survived that, and he is such an inspiration. And I'm so happy that Ariel and Kat chose that to be the chapter in Crappy to Happy, because that life went from really crappy to very happy.
Yeah, that's an amazing story that someone could hit rock bottom, because that would be rock bottom when you lose the function of your body. That's rock bottom, and then find his purpose and now teach doctors how to help patients. I mean, that's my dream too, is to help doctors and nurses understand really how to treat patients and really bring conventional medicine and alternative medicine together, because that's really how you transform lives. But the crucial element that your brother has is the mindset. He had the mindset to push himself forward and to change things, and that gave him his purpose. So that's a beautiful story.
It is, and nothing's going to change until you want to change. And the integrative medicine, he is a huge proponent of the integrative medicine. At the 20-year mark, Craig Rehabilitation Hospital in Denver came to see him. The insurance company paid for this, and they said, we want you to come to Denver for a week, and we want to do an exhaustive study on you, because nobody should live this long. And so they went back, and he spent a week in Denver. And at the end, the result was it's a physical, it's a mental, it's emotional, it's a social program. And they wrote this wonderful report about integrative medicine and the importance of it, and the social interaction and social services and all this wonderful stuff. It was tremendous. My sister, who was a PhD in head trauma, she was there with him in Denver, and she sort of looks at it, and the insurance company there, she looks at the insurance company and says, you can pay for this? And they said, well, we want the best for her. She says, stop. Are you going to take the findings of these incredibly intelligent doctors, integrative doctors, and nutritionists and movement people, and are you going to integrate it, yes or no? And they said, well, no, was the answer. So we know what can be done, but you have to want to do it and have the discipline to follow through with it. And that's something you teach, and you're very good at what you do.
Thank you. I love what I do, and I love to help people transform. But I think it all begins with really understanding the obstacles and challenges that are placed before us. And everyone has their own unique ones, and you've had quite a few. So let's go into this other book that you wrote, The Storm Seeds, and explain this quote: misery has a role in everyone's life.
Misery does have a role in everyone's life, and misery comes at you like a friend. Misery is looking for people who are hurting or are in pain, and it comes as a friend, and it feeds your storm seeds. This is what an addict told me. It feeds your storm seeds. It's going to pretend it's going to help you, but it will never help. And when you try to leave misery, it will pull you back. Like the line from Godfather 3. Every time I think I'm out, it pulls me back. Misery wants to replace your hope, faith, and your trust with fear and depression and anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And the book was written because while my brother was in the hospital, there was a young woman who was there with him, and she had been hit by lightning. It was a lightning strike on the Jersey Shore, and she was laying on a blanket with her then boyfriend, and lightning travels along the ground, which I didn't know until I met her. The lightning comes up, hits the ground, goes along the ground. They were at the shore, at the Jersey Shore, laying on the beach. She had just moved. She had been touching him, and she had just rolled over to start to get up. Lightning came, killed him, and it paralyzed her completely. She was paralyzed. She was blind, everything. When they came down, got her to the hospital, took her to Jefferson Hospital and McGee, where my brother was. And this young woman was angry. She was angry. She did not have the big family and the big support. When my brother was there, every weekend there was 5 to 10 people who would come to visit him. She had her mother and father. Her boyfriend was now dead, and she didn't want anybody or anything around her. They said you will more than likely recover from this, and she did. And she actually walked out of the hospital. Walked with a limp, but she did walk out of the hospital. And her storm seeds was, I can do this on my own. I don't need anybody. I don't want anybody. I'm going to handle this by myself. So she started down the path, and obviously things did not go well. She became an addict. She was physically abused in many, many instances. She tried to commit suicide multiple times. One of the guys that was in the hospital with my brother, they, when he was discharged, they got together and were trying to pursue a relationship. They had a big fight. She cursed at him. She left the home, left the house. He committed suicide that night, and that just put her further into a spiral. And it was at the point of again going into rehab, and then because she's court ordered because she'd get arrested, but wouldn't participate. And then when she went to the rehab, and I was there because we were trying to write this book, and we heard it was an addict who came back to talk, and he's the one who said that the misery plays a role in everybody's life, and it was probably a whole page of content that he said to all these additional addicts. And one of the first questions they asked him, someone said, wait, stop. Are you one of these God people? Because I don't want to hear it anymore. And he had a great answer, and he said, well, you can call it whatever you want to call it. You can call it God, the spirit, the universe, energy, whatever you want. And why shouldn't I believe in something? Because what I'm doing isn't working, and what you're doing isn't working. So let's do something different. And let's see if we can pull away from misery, but you cannot do it alone. So her life came back together and ultimately ended up going much better than it appeared it was going to go. And she still stays in touch with my brother.
Wow, that's a lot of hard stuff to happen in seems like a short period of time for someone. I can understand why she went down this spiral into this dark place. But sometimes we got to reach that dark place to make that decision to change for ourselves. And I think in the process, you realize how important a support system is. And a support system can be people that are related to you. They can be friends. They can be co-workers. And it's important for people to find a support system. And in one of your books, you actually talk about a support system as well. So there's another book, Inside the Spaghetti Bowl. I think this would be the last one we'll be able to talk to. Let us know about that story.
Inside the Spaghetti Bowl is about my family. My mother died 17 years ago or so, and we knew it was coming. She had been ill for a while, and it was into hospice. So the whole family got together, and we started talking. One of the cousins said, someone should write a story about this family, and and I had not written a book at that point at all. And so we started a chat, and I said, well, first off, how long it would take to get the information to write a book like that, and then who would read it? My brother Tony, the middle brother, he had gathered all this information. He had interviewed my grandparents and the aunts and uncles, and he had all the data. So he sends it to me. Diane, he sends me boxes of data. And I said, I can't write a book on this. I mean, geez, it'd be the size of War and Peace, and who cares? No one wants to read it. So I said, well, let's take. We got there there was about a 7-day window. We got there on a Thursday. My mother died shortly after, and then we through the funeral. So that's it. The story's going to be just those days. And all the people who came to visit. And there was many, many. And then the stories that we heard. And we're going to put that together. And hopefully the idea of that book is to let people know that family is, to me and to many, many people, is the single most important thing you're going to have. Your family is going to be with you forever. And if you come from a good family, they're going to be there no matter what. And the idea of that book was, I hope people read it and they see their own family and some of the things that the good stories and the bad that they went through, and we hope it makes them smile. One of the stories that in that book is my Italian grandmother is Italians believe in curses. They call it the evil eye, right? Mm-hmm. And she was supposedly be able to take away the evil eye. So we're at a Christmas one time, and she's talking to everybody, and she has all these grandchildren, 22 grandchildren, and the old Italians feel that their place in heaven is based on how big your ancestral line is. So she's got it all figured out that she's going to have 22,000 ancestors or something. She's going to be sitting so close to God that she'll be next to him on the throne, right? And one of the female cousins says, Grandma, we're not having 5 kids like you. And she says, you don't have a choice in that. And my cousin says, well, oh yeah, we do. Wrong thing to say. My grandmother's head nearly exploded. She says, that's birth control and you're going to go to hell and I'm not going to have that on my record. Who put you up to this? Was it Mrs. Leone? Because she wants to have more kids. It was hysterical. And so she says, all right, I put a curse on all my grandchildren. Your first 2 children will be the same sex. Now, if you want to have a boy and just a boy and a girl, you're going to have 3. And everybody laughed. Grandma's lost it, whatever. Okay, 22 grandchildren, 21 of the 22, 2 boys, 2 girls. Finally, the youngest of the 22 cousins has a girl, then he has a boy, right? The curse is broken. So he's calling everybody up and he goes, hey, wow, I broke the curse. By this time, we're in our 40s and plus. And he said to him, Phil, nobody cares. We're done. And he says, but I broke the curse. So never doubt a Sicilian grandmother curse.
Oh, I won't. That sounds intense. That's a funny story, actually. That's a lot of fun. And families bring unique things into our dynamics, right? So one of the things that I teach is it's important for us to create boundaries and to know what things trigger us. And I'd say the people that trigger us the most are those closest to us. Can you give any tips about how you do that for yourself? How do you create some boundaries with relationships and empower yourself to evolve?
Boundaries are tough, particularly with family, and it didn't turn into a knockdown, drag-out battle, but it was a hard discussion with my parents, brothers, and sisters, and we all grew up Catholic. And I said, I don't believe this anymore. I don't believe that there's a God who is vengeful and is looking there with a lightning bolt to smite you if you do something wrong. If there's a God, I think the God is an inclusive God, and I'm going to live my life that way. And I don't necessarily feel that I need to be following going to a Catholic masses and all the things along those lines, which was heresy in my family. But that was a line that we drew in the sand. And I said, this is how I'm going to live. If this doesn't meet with your approval, that's okay. I still love you. I will honor your wishes, but I expect you not to try to persuade me to live the life that you think I should live. I mean, I tried that. It didn't work real well. And this is what I'm going to do now.
Well, thank you for sharing that, because I'm sure that is one of the hardest boundaries to set when it comes to something so close to the heart, and religion is one of those big ones that tends to come up for a lot of people. So I think that will provide a lot of inspiration. We have about 2 minutes left. So is there anything else that you want to share about your crappy to happy story?
The crappy to happy is a lot of fun. When they wrote Chaos to Clarity, I had Ariel and Kat on my radio show. It's called Life Altering Events. And it was a lot of fun. The crappy to happy, I've interviewed I don't know how many people, co-authors of this thing. And the interesting thing is every single one, including you, Diane, has such a positive outlook on life. Regardless of what happened, there seems to be the sense of gratitude. You're not so grateful about what occurred, but you're grateful for what you gained from that. And that is something that keeps me inspired and keeps me going every day.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful that you share your inspiration and your insight with so many different stories. I think we still have quite a few minutes left. You want to briefly explain your other life-changing event, the story about his wife? We got about a minute.
The story about my wife?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my wife left the family 45 days after my mother died and 10 days before Thanksgiving. I was in high tech. I was very type A personality. I traveled a lot. I'm sure I wasn't present. And she had enough. And so she left, and I had custody of my daughters. And so that story was getting through that situation from a male and daughter perspective. It was not an autobiography. I was approached by 9 men who told me the same thing, that their wife had left. And I didn't know that wives left. I just thought it was me. And so we went through the counseling with my daughters and how, for them, a lot of boundary setting occurring because you can't let your mother define your life by her actions.
Right. Yeah, and it's very important, you know, to have a support system like that and be able to help your daughters get the help they need. Because now there's a lot of kids out there that are stressed out with what we're experiencing with COVID-19 and a lot of unrest in families. So thank you for sharing your story. How can they reach out to you? How can they follow you on social?
Well, I'm easy to find. You can get me at Frank Zaccari at Gmail. My website is frankzaccari.com. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. The radio show is Life Altering Events. I'm fairly easy to find. Send me an email, contact me, LinkedIn, or whatever the case is. I will get back to you. If you have a story that can inspire others, I want to hear it because we're moving the radio show to a television program soon, and you will be one of the guests, Diane. And I want to hear your story, and I want to get it out there. I think the more good that we can put out, the better things will be.
I think that's amazing, and I can't wait to be on your show. Thank you for being part of my show, Frank, and aloha. This is Diane. Stay tuned for the next guest.